In today's video, I'm going to combine two sections from the book. The first section, 2.1, is on solving one-step equations, which we practiced a lot last year, but it's definitely worth a quick review. The second section, 2.2, is two-step equations. They go together. We've worked on them both, but like I said, it's definitely worth a review. So I'm just going to put a bunch of examples down, and if you have any questions, always pause, rewind, rewatch, and you can also ask questions in class tomorrow. So let's start off here. We'll start with some one-step equations. Here we have the variable that's being subtracted by 3. We're going to do the inverse of that. We're going to add 3 to both sides. So negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4, and so we know that b is equal to negative 4. That's the addition property of equality. You add 3 to both sides, and that is legal. In number 2 here, we have our variable being multiplied by 2. So using the division property of equality, we can divide both sides by 2 and we get x equals 5. It's always a good idea to plug your answers back in to see if it made sense with the original equation. In this case, negative 4 minus 3 was negative 7. That makes sense. In this case, 5 times 2 is 10. Here we have a similar equation to number 2. It's actually the exact same. We're going to use the same technique here, except you can't really show division by 2 like this. You can, but it's not as intuitive and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So what we can do instead, dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2, and so this makes a lot more sense when you're looking at a fraction. And so what you can do here is make that 2x a fraction, and then the 2's cancel out, leaving us with x equals 3 over 10 here. And then you can check that answer by saying, well, 2 times 3 over 10 is 6 over 10, which reduces to 3/5. So even though these start out the same, they both have the same left side, we're both dividing by 2. The division by 2 takes the form of a multiplication by 1/2 here, which we know is the same thing. Alright, moving on, we have this addition, so we're going to use the subtraction property of equality, and that allows us to subtract the same thing from both sides, giving us y equals 5. This was an easy one, obviously, to do in your head. 5 plus 5 is 10. Here, using the multiplication property of equality, if we multiply both sides by 5, the 5's would cancel on this side, leaving x equal to negative 60. Keep in mind we're always doing the inverse here. So in this one we have this fraction multiplied to our variable. We want to divide by that number. Again, a fraction divided by a fraction, we know, is a fraction times its reciprocal. The benefit of that, obviously, in this case is when you multiply a number by its reciprocal, it turns into a 1. So 2/5 times 5 over 2 equals 1, which is what we want. We want 1x. Over on this side, we can do some cross reduction here and get a 3 times 2, so we get a 6. And you can check that over here. So 5 over 2 times 6 would be 30 over 2, also known as 15. So we were able to check that even though we have a fraction here. Again, if I'm going fast, pause it, rewind it. You've seen this before, so that's why I'm moving kind of quickly. So now we're going to get to two-step equations. There are two ways to do two-step equations. The recommended way is to deal with the addition subtraction first and then the multiplication or division. You don't have to do it that way, but I'll show you how this works. So in this case, we can use the subtraction property of equality to subtract 7 from both sides, leaving us with 3x equaling 21. Now using the division property of equality, we have x equals 7. I'll move that over here. Okay, x equals 7. So a lot of you, when you look at this, think, well, we could have divided by 3 first. And that's true, but it leads to a somewhat sticky situation. So 3x plus 7 equals 28. Unlike addition and subtraction, when you divide or multiply, it has to be done to every single term, every single thing. And that doesn't come up in one-step equations because there's only one term on each side. So if we wanted to do the division first, we would have to divide everything by 3, and then we end up with x plus 7 thirds equals 28 thirds. And although it looks awful and horrible, it's not that bad, because we just use the subtraction property of equality. Oops, I don't want an equal sign there. Let's so I'm going to subtract 7 thirds from both sides, and I still end up with x equals 21 thirds, which is 7, which is what we got originally. It just looks a little nastier on the way there. So it is recommended that you do the subtraction and addition first. However, if you want to be stubborn, you can do the division or the multiplication first. Just be aware that every single term has to be affected by that division. Okay. So back to number 8, or down to number 8. So again, you can multiply everything by 3 over 1 first, but the recommended is to deal with this -5 first. So change colors here. So we'll add 5 to both sides. So we now have 1/3 x equals 16. And now we want to multiply both sides by 3 over 1, or 3, same thing. And we'll end up with x equals 48. And then, as usual, you can still check the answer here. 48 divided by 3 is 16, minus 5 is 11. Now, number 9, this does have division and subtraction. And although I told you to deal with subtraction first, in this case, there's always different cases where you want to make things easier. If we didn't have a fraction, this problem would be a lot simpler. So let's deal with that. So to get rid of this division by 2, you just multiply this whole fraction by 2. And obviously you want to do that to both sides. So because both of these terms here are being affected by the 2 already, when you multiply by the 2, it takes care of all that. So 2 divided by 2 is a 1, leaving m minus 6 up top. And now we add 6 to both sides, and we get m equals 12. And again, plug it in. 12 minus 6 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. If you don't plug it in and you get the answer wrong, I will have no remorse for you making a mistake. Always plug in to see if you got it right. Alright, this looks like a one-step problem. You can subtract 8 from both sides. But remember, this subtraction sign stays with whatever's next to it. So you'll end up with a -11 equals 5. Sorry, -n equals 5. If you multiply now by -1 on both sides, that will give you the answer you're looking for, which is n equals -5. There is another way to do that. We'll start it off here. If you were to add n to both sides first, you would end up with 8 equals 13 plus n. Then you could subtract 13 from both sides, and then you would get what you're looking for, which is n equals -5. So either way you want to do that's fine. I think I actually lean towards this way here, but this way is perfectly acceptable. And that should do it for the video. Thank you.